20,000 missing votes in Pennsylvania. That's what the Democrats are hinting at. And this is a curious one because it comes out of Erie County in Pennsylvania, which is a very 50-50 county. It's not like a Democrat mega county where you'd expect the Democrats to want to go scrounge around for votes. It's a 50-50 split. And it's saying that the U.S. Postal Service and a third-party vendor who's supposed to be processing a lot of these ballots and managing these systems has done goofed bigly. And I don't care what party is not getting ballots should be handled appropriately and not missing in the Postal Service, not being filled out and intercepted and returned by who knows who before they even get to the voters, as is happening in Colorado. And so what we're watching here is just after episode of failures and breakdowns of the system, which of course have been happening for a long time now. But here the Democrats are suing. They're suing the Erie County Board of Elections. And as I mentioned, Erie is right here in Pennsylvania, not too far away from Butler, which is right here. So Butler is where the Trump assassination took place. You can see in this county in 2020, it was 65-33 in favor of President Trump. Erie County, much closer. 49.8% to 48.8%. So it's like a 50-50 county, basically. And the total number of votes, probably something like 140,000-ish. And if the margin, if we're talking about 10 to 20,000 votes that are now maybe missing out of that bucket, that's a pretty big number. So we'll go through that and see how the numbers align, but that is the region that we're looking at. And you can just see how red Pennsylvania is minus Philly, basically. Philly and Pittsburgh are the two big locations that will gobble up all the Democrat city liberal votes like they like. So here is what the lawsuit looks like. It's a big problem in Pennsylvania if this is true. They tell us that this is an action seeking to enforce the election code to ensure that registered Pennsylvania voters may vote. The complaint seeks mandamus relief, enforcing Erie County Board of Elections to comply with the election code, which I'm sure they're already trying to do, right? But they're failing at this. And we also have to be cognizant when the Democrats file lawsuits, sometimes it feels like it's adversarial because we're used to it being adversarial. We're brainwashed to think that, oh, this little verses right here. Oh, it means like verses. It's like they're like going to war against each other. So they're very upset with each other. But oftentimes that's not the case. In fact, many times it's not the case. What they'll do is there'll be a lawsuit and then they come to a settlement agreement. They're two friendly parties that just need an excuse to come to a settlement. And then in that settlement, they'll say, oh, it's enforceable. And then everybody else is bound by that settlement. And in the settlement, they'll make terms, they'll change the terms and say we're bound. Everybody's bound because we agreed basically in a contract with somebody else. So they look like they're adversarial, but they're really not. It's just two parties playing patty cake with one another so that they can change the rules. They find a problem, they use an excuse, that problem as an excuse to suddenly come to new terms and then shift all the rules around, which is what happened during COVID. So we're having flashbacks again to 2020. So here is the actual complaint saying everybody needs to vote. Now, the Board of Elections has encountered numerous issues related to the mail-in voting process as a result of failures of one of its vendors. And as we go through this, just have the subtext in your mind. What if we didn't have mail-in voting? There wouldn't be problems with vendors. There wouldn't be numerous issues. We wouldn't have label printing problems in Wisconsin, intercepted ballots in Colorado, and a multitude of problems in Georgia that they're not even responding to requests for information on. They won't allow hand counts. They tried, the DOJ, to put non-citizens on the rolls, right? It's happening everywhere we look. So just keep that in our minds when we talk about mail-in voting. We could eliminate a lot of these problems by just getting rid of it. So they reference this news article and they attach it. And I did pull that news article up because here's what it says. They say, look, there's news reporting on this from Erie Times in Pennsylvania. It says, your mail-in ballot still hasn't arrived. This came in 2 days ago, October 29th. We're like, and I don't care what, if you're a Democrat or a Republican, if our government says that they're going to mail you a ballot, they better do it because that's your vote. And if you're expecting it, they better do it. And I get so tired of the government. We're just incompetent. So you just should excuse us. You have claimed competence and you've rolled out all of these programs claiming that you can manage them appropriately without undermining the integrity of the election. Now we're showing you they don't work and you're still doing them. So now it's October 29th and a bunch of people aren't getting their ballots, allegedly, according to this news article from Go Erie. It says the Go Erie Board of Elections and Voter Registration Office continues to work with the Pennsylvania Department of State and Josh Shapiro's office and the U.S. Postal Service and its third-party vendor called Election IQ, right? So we're not even running the elections. Third-party companies are. The same thing happened in Arizona with a company called Runbeck. And then we're like, can we get your records, Runbeck, since you managed our elections, you facilitated the processing of them? No, you can't have them. Why not? Because FOIA and information requests only apply to public entities. They don't apply to private entities that are contracted out. Oh, so they can do whatever they want essentially with no oversight by the public? Yeah, basically. Welcome to America. So they're doing the same thing. So Election IQ is also saying they're having problems trying to determine the status of mail-in ballots that have not been delivered to voters. Erie County Clerk called Karen Chilcott on Monday provided potential remedies for people who are concerned they're not going to get their ballot in time. Mail-in ballots must be received by the office by the deadline, 8 p.m. Tuesday on election night. But what do you do if you haven't received your ballot? You can email, request that the mail-in ballot be canceled and get a new ballot via express mail. Then the ballot would be sent directly to the voter registration office instead of Election IQ, which handles the printing. However, this request must be made by the end of the day 2 days ago, which is the deadline to request a mail-in ballot. It's not good. You can see here's Karen Chilcott. She stands outside the office. They've been flooded with calls, and in some cases, the call volume overwhelms the phone system, and some callers are being disconnected. Employees are not hanging up on callers, they said. Yeah, anyone who intends to vote early Tuesday should prepare to wait for several hours. Great job. Bring a snack, bring something to drink, and even a book. Going with another person is also advised, so you have someone to hold your place in line if you need to use the restroom. What? They're not standing in line at Disneyland. What? Some Erie mail-in ballots were also sent to the wrong post office. Last week, the county learned that 2 bins of mail-in ballots had been dropped off at a U.S. Postal Service processing facility in Pittsburgh, but were then sent to the wrong post office. However, Chilcott said on Monday, she's concerned more ballots might have even been affected. The Postal Service error followed an October 18th discovery that Election IQ had mistakenly sent duplicate mail-in ballots to wrong voters. Oh, Chilcott has more meetings Tuesday with state officials. Great. So that's the report that they reference in the complaint. They also reference another one from WPXI. It says nearly 300 duplicate ballots incorrectly sent. They say upon information and belief here, the Democrats are saying to the election board, it appears that the post office has been unable to account for approximately 1,800 ballots. Just in one little incident. This is one minor microcosm of problems. 1,800 just in this one incident, in one location, Pennsylvania, one state. One thing we know about. Upon information and belief, they say, it appears that 10,000 to 20,000 voters who requested mail-in ballots have not received or submitted those ballots. Now, the Democrats might say mail-in ballots have a higher propensity to be Democrat-ick, and ick is right. But they are not getting their ballots, right? So they are then, or even Republicans, it's a 50-50 county. So even if it's only in that one county, you presume maybe half those are Trump voters too. So, and either way, I want everybody to get their ballots. If the government makes a contractual promise, they're going to send the ballots out, not miss 1,800. Further, upon information and belief, over 300 voters received 2 mail-in ballots, one of which may not have correlated to the local races. So it's a free-for-all. These vendors, just handing out ballots over there. Hey, here you go. These vendors these vendor issues have caused registered voters substantial delays and hardships in casting ballots, potentially violating the right to vote of numerous electors. With 1 week away from the election, the Board of Elections has not yet properly even addressed these issues, and they threaten to disenfranchise thousands. Further, the board is apparently providing inaccurate information to voters about options that they can use to remedy these things, and so we seek injunctive relief to force them and to ensure that all effective voters may exercise their fundamental right to vote. Okay, so this is where you shoehorn in whatever you can. Injunctive relief precisely tailored to ensure that everybody can vote. So now they're saying we've identified a bucket of 20,000 people. And so maybe after the election's over, they have now anchored this in. They're flagging this for future litigation. This is a problem. A bunch of people are disaffected. So when Trump wins Pennsylvania, they can come out. Trump wins by 10,000. They say, no, here's our bucket of 20,000 people who never got mail-in ballots. And so we should invalidate the election because it's greater than the margin of error. We're just anchoring these things in. They say, okay, the Pennsylvania Democratic Party is dedicated to, they say, improving, we'll say, wrecking the lives of their citizens. They're also coordinating the largest registration in Pennsylvania. They say as of October 28th, they say 3.9 million registered voters are members of the Democratic Party. Gonna work on those numbers. In Erie County, Pennsylvania, 73,000 registered voters are members of the Democrats. The PDP is a major political party. We got significant resources that we've expended, and you've got jurisdiction over all of this. They say upon information and belief, the printed mail-in ballots were available for distribution prior to October 9th to deliver to them. Then the Board of Elections contracted with a vendor, an outside company who is basically not accountable, at least here in Arizona, to distribute the mail-in ballots. Now, upon information and belief, due to the vendor's various failures, wow. As of October 28th, 315 incorrect ballots were sent to registered voters in Erie County. Oops. At least some of these incorrect ballots listed candidates for Pennsylvania state house races applicable to different districts. Cross the ballot lines. The board has claimed that letters were sent to the voters affected, but the board has not been made aware of any voter having received such correspondence, nor has the board shared the correspondence. Now, they have not publicly released the names of the affected voters to ensure that the affected voters cast the correct ballot. And additionally, the vendor's failures, coupled with ongoing delays with the postal service, have caused substantial delays in delivering the mail-in ballots as well. So it's just, and you're wondering, it's very convenient that all this starts to happen right now. Right now, of course, we're voting here. Let's continue. Says the PDP has been made aware by its registered party members of numerous instances where a voter requested a mail-in ballot weeks ago, but has still not received it. The board has not publicly released the names. As of October 28th, just days ago, 40,000 mail-in applications have been approved by Erie County. However, only 21,000 have returned. This amounts to a return rate of 52%, which is 15 percentage points below the state average of 67%, which is among the lowest in the Commonwealth. Okay, but it's not the lowest in the Commonwealth. So that doesn't mean it's even that aberrational. Other counties are also returning low. So I don't think you can take anything from that. In fact, I think that the fact that it's more 50-50 means it's probably going to be a lot less if they're not turning out for Kamala, for example. Further, upon information and belief, the Postal Service has no record of having received 1,800 mail-in ballots from its vendor. Stuff like that is just really problematic. Where'd they go? And is in the process of trying to locate these ballots. 1,800 people may not, what? At minimum, then, 1,800 voters' mail-in ballots have been lost and will not be delivered before the 2024 election. Insane. Upon information and belief, the Board of Elections, and remember, like, this is absolutely not supposed to happen. There's chain of custody. They're supposed to be documenting, I gave this to you. It's insecure stuff. We're seeing photographs of trunks being left open and people just having boxes of ballots hanging out for anyone to walk by and grab. They say upon information and belief through Erie County Clerk Karen Chilcott, she's advised voters that they may email the Erie County Voter Registration Office to request their mail-in ballot be canceled and get a new one by FedEx. However, voters must submit this cancellation request like immediately, and that's already passed. And so assuming the voters did actually do this, their mail-in ballot would have been received yesterday. And further assuming that voters mail their ballots the same day, the timing is too late. It's one day after the deadline to mail the votes back. Given Erie's delays, such a remedy still threatens to disenfranchise voters whose mail-in ballots will not be received. And we're saying we want you to force them to do something. They've declined to request our request to produce the names of the affected voters. So the Democrats want the names so they can go corroborate them and then turn out the vote for those people. Additionally, the Board of Elections has not set forth a clear mechanism to ensure that their votes are ultimately counted. And so they're going to cause people to be deprived of the right to vote. Denying relief would inflict greater injury And so we're asking for these things. Immediately release the names of all the affected voters. Immediately release all correspondence to the affected voters. Agree to a process whereby they, with representatives, observe the opening of duplicate ballots to see who received them, right? Like all these things they want to look at, and they should. It's a disaster. Multiple ballots going out to multiple people, 1,800 ballots now missing. Vendors' failures and delays. As many as 19,000 approved mail-in ballots have not even been delivered. Great. In Erie County, requesting such ballots and other ballots were provided belatedly. So I didn't get mine. I have to go request it. Upon information and belief, the Board of Elections has not informed these voters of the delay, nor given them any guidance either way. In fact, the Board of Elections apparently is providing inaccurate information to the voters. Although the deadline for requesting the mail-in ballot was October 29th, all that's passed. Now, as of October 28th, only 21,000 ballots have returned. So I don't buy that as a real problem. Okay, maybe the average statewide is 67%, but that might just be the natural order of things. You already admitted that other counties were lower than that. It's not the lowest. It's not even an aberration, right? It's within, plotted all on a chart, and all of the counties are like here, right? 67, 51, 52, 53. It's right in here. You just plot it out. It's not like way out here. It's not an aberration over here. It's right in the, additionally, or maybe on the lower end of the bell curve, but it's not off the chart. So it's not a statistical anomaly. Additionally, upon information and belief, 1,800 mail-in ballots sent by the vendor have been lost. That's insane. Will not be delivered to the respective voters approved to receive them. Could you imagine if you lost $1,800? Hey, I need you to go deposit this at the bank, Rob. Oh, sure, boss. $1,800. Better not freaking lose $1 of that, right? Going into the bank. Okay. 1,800 mail-in ballots. 1,800 people. Insane. These 1,800 voters will not receive mail-in ballots, and even if located, will not receive mail-in ballots in a timely manner. And this is just an allegation. Okay. This is not fact, but this is their information and belief. I don't know where they're getting that from, but if it's true, that's a lot. Even if it's 100 mail-in ballots that are not getting delivered and they were promised to be delivered by these so-called vendors, and our government says that everyone's going to be enfranchised, right? Why are certain people not? Requiring thousands of voters to submit provisional ballots on election day will place a heavy burden on the polling locations, and provisional ballots can be disqualified in different ways, and it's not clear that they've even planned for a surge of provisional ballots, and so they continue to cause the delay, and some people may not be voting. And so given the delays, adequate remedies must be put in place. They should aggregate all mail-in ballots, put them all in the polling book, establish firm hours, be directed to keep the place open, and the Democrats are like, we're running the election now. All right, see what I meant when I said they'll come to terms on this? So then the elections board will come out and they'll say, theoretically, I'm not saying I don't know the elections board's politics very well, or if this is a friendly lawsuit or how this will unfold, but it will. But my point is, it's a patty cake game. Then they come out and then the board could theoretically come back out. And this happened a bunch during COVID in Michigan and in Pennsylvania, where they come out, they say, oh my gosh, you're right. It's not our fault that 1,800 people aren't going to get ballots. It's the Postal Service's fault. And so now we do. They blame the feds and then, yeah, let's do everything we can to fix this. And so then they come to a settlement agreement and then they give the Democratic Party control of the election. And as you can see, that's basically what the Democrats are demanding here in this complaint. And here, let's take a look right here. Should be directed to do this. Firm hours, directed to cease providing misinformation that voters cannot request these ballots, right? Whatever. So misinformation, that's a Democratic term now. The board should also be directed to remain open, denying relief, issue an injunction. That's going to benefit us. And so there were other things. Overflow lines. Says the board shall aggregate all mail-in ballots received after the poll book deadline. The court should declare all voters who applied for mail-in ballots shall be permitted to vote on voting machines as if they had canceled their mail-in ballot application. So you study these things, you start to, okay, where are the little margins where are the little rules being shifted, and the Democrats can come in and take charge. Enter an injunction is what they're asking for. Release the names of the 1,800 ballots that have now been lost so that people can know, right? That's why we want to release the names, is so people go, oh, my name's on that list. My ballot got lost by our very efficient USPS. Release the names of all voters for whom the board has reason to believe did not get their ballots. Declare that all voters who applied for mail-in ballots but did not submit a ballot shall be permitted to cancel the ballot And is that overbroad, right? Is that going to allow more people than those who were impacted by these things to come in and give the Democrats an opening? Those are the issues that we're looking for. Provide for overnight ballot delivery for out-of-state residents. See that? Out-of-state residents, so everybody can just pile their mail-in ballots in. Ensure an adequate number of provisional ballots are around. Provide that 30 blank request to cancel my ballot request forms are available at each district. Segregate all mail-in ballots. Democrats are in charge. Following election day, allow observers. And all they need is the court to come back out and just say, sure, Democrats, you got that. You got that one. You got that one. You got that one. And they want money for their attorney's fees. And they want all voters who requested a mail-in ballot to appear in person and vote in day, right? Some of those things you might say are good solutions. Others you might say those are overbroad, that give a power and benefit to the Democratic Party. But they're on it. And if our government really is losing 1,800 ballots here that we've identified in this one small microcosm, this is a giant election. 1,800 ballots is probably just the tip of the iceberg. The situation, though, means that they'll never admit it. And if Jenna Griswold is poking around Colorado and she finds a problem in her machines, do you think she's going to come out and say, no, we cannot do our election? In any world, if the right decision, like legitimately, if it were to not conduct an election right now, do you think Jenna Griswold would ever come out and make that happen? Never. Doesn't matter how bad it was. They're doing the election. In fact, the worse it is, the better it is for them. So that is what is currently pending in Pennsylvania. Republicans are, actually, these are Democrats who are suing to figure out where these ballots went. Our U.S. Postal Service trying to figure that out as well. Now, elsewhere, remember that in Virginia, they got sued by the Biden DOJ because they got rid of non-citizens from the voter rolls who declared themselves to be non-citizens. They did a very detailed check. They identified, of about 1,600 people, they identified, I believe it was 3 who actually had become naturalized. And so they got their, placed back on the registrations, got their ballots, and were already planning on voting. And we already identified those people and it was all situated. But the other people who were booted off the rolls because they're non-citizens confirmed they were non-citizens. There were multiple checks. They got at least 2 notices that they were going to be deregistered, and they were removed. Then the courts told them to put them back on in one of the most insane flubs in legal election law. They said, put non-citizens back on, send them essentially an apology note, and make sure that they know that your removal of them was a mistake. What? Really weird. I thought I can't vote. You're going to get a ballot anyways, but if you fill it out, it's a felony. But you are still on the registration list for some reason. Anyways, Supreme Court put a stop to it. And now Glenn Youngkin is celebrating that. And it's been an inspiration because we'll go back to Pennsylvania. They are knocking on the Supreme Court's door. You see this is happening right now. We'll take a look at that petition and the application for a stay. But this is what Glenn Youngkin said after the Supreme Court victory earlier this week.
The Supreme Court decision.
Well, Brett, it's a big win for common sense and for the Constitution. I'm, of course, very pleased with the Supreme Court's ruling, and it affirms the fact that the process we're going through, in fact, isn't a purge. This is a process that we've been using for 18 years. When someone walks into a DMV, they identify themselves as a non-citizen. They have ended up on our voting rolls either by happenstance or by purpose. We go through a very clear process. You get a notice, you get 14 days to affirm you're a citizen. And if you don't, you come off the voter rolls. And of course, in Virginia, we have the ultimate fail-safe that you can same-day register and cast a provisional ballot. So everyone who is a U.S. citizen in Virginia can vote. And I encourage everybody, go vote. But this is a win for common sense and a win for the Constitution today.
You've right on. Yeah, it was a good call. We don't want non-citizens voting. And we want our elections managed appropriately. And we're going to the Supreme Court again to get their take on what's happening.